Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with random reviews from the Overflow room. Yeah. And today, we're still working backwards through the letter H, and we have an interesting miscellany. Really an interesting miscellany, actually. First, we have oh my goodness, yes, Ferdinand Hérold, remember him? Arranged by John Lanchbury, La Fille Mal Gardée, coupled to Charles Lecoq, Mademoiselle Angot. These are all the National Phil under Richard Bonning. And, well, you know, I mean, these were all fun stuff. We talked about this in the Big Bonning Box and some other things like that. And, you know, he was a wonderful conductor of ballet. Lanchbury's arrangements, you know, I can take him or leave him sometimes. He tended to add things like harp things and glockenspiel parts and stuff to sort of jazz up the orchestration. And I'm not quite sure it was all done tastefully and it worked all that well. Oh, look, I was out working in the garden. This is one of my little garden tie things. Let me just put that away, in case you were wondering. So anyway, yeah, but I mean, the performances are excellent and the sound's terrific. And it's one of those, you know, before the Big Bonning Box popped up, you know, we had to get all this stuff individually. So now it's been transposed to the Overflow room. There we go. Oh, and this was fun. All right, this was Yo-Yo Ma's 50th recording of the Dvořák Cello Concerto. Well, not really, but I mean, it's a very good performance with the New York Phil and Court Mazur on Sony. And it's coupled with the Victor Herbert Cello Concerto, which is a lovely work. And it was the proximate inspiration for Dvořák's own cello concerto. It's actually Herbert's Cello Concerto number 2. And it's quick. It's only like, you know, 18, 19 minutes long and 3 movements. And it's really nice that Yo-Yo Ma was doing something that wasn't the same old to couple to the Dvořák, which made this a very interesting release. And it still is. The performances are just fine. Victor Herbert is a fun composer. I love looking at his scores because he's a big vibrato guy. He notates it all over the place. It's very, very interesting to see what he was doing at the turn of the 20th century that, as usual, makes nonsense out of what the period instrument people have to say about orchestral practice back in the day. Anyway, Victor Herbert's someone who's really worth getting to know. Both his musicals, his music theater pieces, and his instrumental pieces. They're very, very beautiful. And, yes, the rest of this program, is dedicated to Hans Werner Henze. Now, if you've seen my video about, you know, the fight I had with Henze over various things, I'm sure you'll be amused. Go look it up. It was quite the thing. Henze and I had a relationship. He detested me because I disinvited him to the Cannes Classical Awards because he decided to be an obnoxious prick. And, you know, and I didn't tolerate it. And it caused a whole international incident. Oh, gosh, it was fun. But here we have Henze's music. And the truth of the matter is, some of it I like and some of it I didn't like. He was a very talented composer. But like so many 20th century German composers, he was so obsessed with non-musical trivia. You know, his place in history and the stylistics and aesthetics and all these other things. And he was a, you know, left-wing, you know, agitprop guy for part of his life. And, you know, he had all kinds of issues. But some of the music's really good. And we have here Symphonies 1 through 6. The early symphonies, 1, 2, 3, 4, up about there, they were composed between, 1947 and 1955. They're kind of fun. They sort of pick up where Alban Berg left off. They're dense and complex and harmonically interesting, as often as not. Afterwards, he began to get a little full of himself. And as he approached Symphony number 9, you can only imagine what was going on in his brain, or maybe you can't. And the music just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and full of itself and whatever. But this set, which features himself conducting the Berlin Philharmonic and the London Symphony, is really worth hearing, I think. They're interesting works. So there's that. Then we have his ballet, Undine, ballet in 3 acts. Frederick Ashton did the scenario. And this is with the London Sinfonietta and Oliver Knussen. Wouldn't it be great if Eloquence, hi Cyrus, you listening, put out an Oliver Knussen box with all the stuff he did for Deutsche Grammophon and Argo and the Universal labels? It was all contemporary Slav. Some of it was very difficult, but it was magnificently performed. Oliver Knussen was just a terrific conductor, a wonderful all-around musician. And Undine is fun. I enjoyed this. It's all over the place, like Henze tends to be, but it has a lot of evocative and exciting moments, so that's okay too. And last but not least, believe it or not, Henze wrote a delightful work for symphonic wind ensemble, or for wind ensemble generally, called Ragtimes and Habaneras. And here it is with the DePaul Wind Ensemble under Donald DeRoche. And this contains some wonderful repertoire. Willem van Otterloo, remember him, the conductor? Yes, he wrote a serenade for brass and percussion, which is endless fun. George Pearl's concertino for piano, winds, and timpani, deliciously 12-tone. Ned Rorem's Sinfonia, which is, of course, Ned Rorem. It's always fun. And Tom Ritter George, concerto for flute and winds, along with the Henze Ragtimes and Habaneras. This is a wonderful, wonderful wind ensemble disc on Albany Records. If you can get your hands on it, if you're a wind person, you're going to want to hear this. You really are. So that's, I think, a fairly eclectic mixture of H's, things in the letter H. And we've got, a few more H's before we get to the big letter H. And you know who that is. Anyway, keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.